Hey guys, quick thing at the start. I've opened up a second store envy now for various reasons to sell merch that is unrelated to Atop the Fourth Wall. It's called Poke Equipment, and right now it mostly has just Pokemon keychains in it, but you can check it out. I plan to add more stuff later. So yeah, if you want to continue supporting the show, this is another way of doing so. Thanks. Also, on the Atop the Fourth Wall store envy, we now have a fully printed Comicron 1 model. Yeah, someone in the comments just suggested I just shrink it, which, good idea. Get it? Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. And welcome, my friends, to the final episode of Secret Origins Month. I was this close to calling this the first superhero crossover. A patron corrected me on that. Later this year, a very enthusiastic patron is having me cover the Mighty Crusaders, Archie Comics' big superhero team, and one of the things they informed me is that two of their characters, the Shield and the Wizard, were the first superhero characters to properly do a crossover with each other in 1940. Now, it's not a full-length story like we're getting today, but it is still a crossover, and it predates today's comic by a couple months, so it gets the credit. The problem with covering that, though, is that, like I said last time, Secret Origins Month is to focus on characters who have some relevance in pop culture. Some of you were questioning the choice of Doom Patrol last time, but like I said in that review, a multi-season, critically acclaimed streaming show. The Shield and the Wizard don't exactly have that going for them right now. As such, we're focusing on the big two, since, as with most focus on the show, they are the ones that are mainstream and a part of pop culture. And a battle between the two biggest characters at Marvel Comics at the time, Namor and the Human Torch, certainly qualifies as a major milestone worthy of celebrating. This is basically the birth of the Marvel Universe by having these characters exist in the same continuity and interacting with each other. Hell, this is such a big deal that it takes place over multiple issues. In the Golden Age! Although, let's be fair here, issue 10, the final part of the story, is 1 page long and is just the actual ending to the whole thing, with the rest of it just having the characters be separate and doing their own things again. It's like they ran out of space in the previous issue and just shoved it into the next one. Not much to say about the lead-up to such an historic moment, really. Supposedly, Bill Everett created Namor as an opposite to the Human Torch, a fire and water dichotomy, so it's only natural, with both characters in the same title, we would actually end up with a fire versus water theme and promotional moment. So let's dig into Marvel Mystery Comics number 8 to 10, and behold the first crossover between Marvel characters.
Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man, punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara. A universe in flux, Linkara. This comic sucks, Linkara.
Naturally, with their two biggest features going up against each other, the cover to issue 8 focuses primarily on the Angel, a more forgotten character who was also in the book at the time, whose costume and coloring kind of remind me of Captain Electron. As a result, I'm guessing Namor and the Human Torch will team up in the end to fight Mr. Computer. "Something new," he quotes 85 years later. "Human Torch battles the Submariner, while the Submariner ignores him and fights a shark, I guess." Issue 8 tells the same story, but from both characters' different perspectives, and we start things off with Namor, revenging himself on humanity for having attempted to electrocute him after he had promised to lend his powers to its cause. Namor, the Submariner, vows to destroy the human race. I sympathize. I kinda want to destroy the human race now just because of that sentence structure. He had already wrecked a ferry boat, caused an elevated train to crash to the streets, and ripped the mooring mast of the Empire State Building when Betty, the policewoman, prevails on him to let up, and warns him that the Human Torch is on his trail. Everyone else is okay with this though, figuring to just let his tantrum tire himself out and then he'll go home. I did check, and indeed, they were building up to this by having the Human Torch join the police and that Betty lady warning him that the Human Torch would be coming for him. So yeah, just really weird to see this level of continuity and serializing from a Golden Age story. Learning this, Namor returns to his self-appointed castle, the Statue of Liberty, to consider, only to discover that the Ghostbusters have already commandeered it. Namor vows revenge. Deciding on his next course of action, Namor dives into the water and swims over to a submarine chaser in the Navy Yard. There, he finds a depth charge and buries it in the Hudson River. He sets it off. The charge goes off, rocking every boat within 200 yards. Let the Torch consider that. I have created some mildly irritating ripples in the water. Fear me, Human Torch! I also love that the Navy apparently just has a bunch of depth charges sitting on the decks of their ships where anyone can take them. Anyway, to be fair, the explosive actually does a lot more damage. A tunnel under the river is blasted open and quickly floods with water. While rescue vehicles are dispatched, Namor decides to head to the Bronx Zoo to cause more destruction and chaos. As Namor heads towards the Bronx Zoo, he is spotted by a plane. A police plane! Crap, I don't have a license for flying in this area. I've got to gun it! No, instead he smashes the plane's propeller and it goes down. Poor fool.
I can see their parachutes. They're okay.
At the zoo, Namor gets to work ripping off the bars of various cages, letting lions loose and beating up the zookeepers when they try to intervene. It's something that this guy up here is so disturbed by that his mustache twists and tries to hide in his nose. One of the lions is none too happy by this turn of events and actually attacks Namor, but he just punches it like Mr. T punching a shark. After letting poisonous snakes out next, he spots an elephant in a cage. Ah, a killer! That elephant has a gun! Apparently it is a killer, as the narration says, and it leads the other elephants in a charge through the zoo. One woman, a nurse, apparently is so startled that she runs away from a baby carriage she was pushing, apparently jostling it to the point where the poor kid is flung from it too. Namor spots this and rescues the baby. She left that poor kid to die! What an asshole! I'm gonna release more dangerous wildlife that can murder children to show how much better than her I am! After tossing the elephant back, he takes the kid and flies it to the roof of a hospital, where he tells a nurse to look after him. He couldn't be as bad as they say. Bah, stupid idiots! You'll see! Ooh, I rescued one baby while on a killing spree. I'm such a nice person when you get to know me. You surface dwellers are morons! Flying through the air, the Submariner sees the George Washington Bridge. What's that? Yet another person is jumping off of it, and Spider-Man is fretting about making sure it doesn't happen again. He is unimpressed by the bridge and starts ripping it apart. However, the bridge remains intact enough as we finally get our big fight. The Human Torch arriving to confront Namor. It's showtime! Namor begins by tossing a steel girder at the torch, who catches it and melts it in his hands. It's melting! Bah! I'll fix you, hot stuff!
Wait a minute. Is he coming on to me?
The Human Torch launches out some flame at Namor, making him fall into a burning ring of fire. He went down, 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 but the flames, they went higher. Namor ignores it as water pours from his body. Namor's lesser-known superpower, sweating really, really hard. Still, the fire's too much for him, and he leaps into the water to douse the flames. That torch will be tough to lick.
Oh my god, he is coming on to me.
The Torch says that he'll have to come up again sometime, which Namor indeed swears he will return. That ends that part of the story, so let's zip over to the Human Torch's side. It starts with the Torch flying around searching for Namor, but nothing doing. He talks to some police officers to see if there's any news, but they've got nothing either. Can we drop you off anywhere, Torch? Yes, headquarters. You know, the Golden Age Human Torch is an android. Since he joined the police department, does that mean that he's also technically the original RoboCop? The Torch goes to see the police chief, who berates him for not bringing in Namor by now. Your orders were to bring him in! Maybe you're scared! Are you trying to insult me? I oughta... Before you hit me, remember, you're a policeman, and I'm your superior officer! That means I can be a complete and total asshole to you without repercussions, you cowardly robot jerkwad! Another officer comes in and reports that Namor has been spotted doing the damage from the previous issue, so the Torch flies through a wall, melting it as he goes, like some kind of heat-based version of the Kool-Aid Man, to try to get to him. The police chief saying to the other officer that maybe the Human Torch is a worthy opponent for Namor. Then angrily orders a mason be hired to rebuild the wall. After the Torch repairs the damage to the elevated train system, which is apparently just as easy as make it really hot and then reshape it with his hands, Betty, the policewoman friend of Namor, asks to see him. You know, Torch, he isn't half as bad as you think. Betty, even ignoring the stuff he did in this issue, he still attacked heavily populated areas with the intention of destroying things that could kill people. Are you stupid or just really horny for him? But he's mighty dangerous when aroused. Horny, got it. Listen, Betty, that water beetle has done enough damage. Yeah, I looked this up. Water beetle here is referring to the fact that he can survive in both water and the air. It's weird, I know. Besides, my orders are to bring him in, and that's what I'm going to do. You're a fool!
Are you crazy? Is that your problem?
They hear over the radio that Namor is attacking the Empire State Building, and the Torch tells Betty to get there quickly. However, she reports that they're in a traffic jam, which one would think that he could see that, but whatever. As such, the Torch burns through the roof of her car and flies out. Even if somehow you couldn't open the door, like child locks or whatever, why not just open a window? Hell, he even leaves the roof of her car on fire and has to turn around to absorb the flames. Dude, I know everyone's being a jerk today, but maybe stop wrecking everybody's stuff when you leave. Anyway, the Empire State Building attack was mentioned at the start as well, so he arrives at the end of it, the mooring mast of the tower hurled to the streets and trapping several people under it. But it's okay, you know. Betty said he's actually a really good guy. He's really a gentle soul. You know, like the Fixer. The Torch melts the mast to get the people free, which seems like a terrible idea since that'll rain molten metal down on the people trapped under it, but whatever. He gets them free. Despite the fact that we know Namor did some stuff between, including just chilling at the Statue of Liberty for a bit, we skip over all that, and the Torch now can see from the air the damage Namor has done to the zoo. So I guess the people in that flooded tunnel are just dead now. That's a bummer. The Torch proceeds to help save a zookeeper from a tiger and then uses his flames to herd the animals back to their cages, melting the bars back into place so they're all contained. Save for a single gorilla who manages to get the Torch while he's deflamed and then tosses him through a wall. Before the gorilla can kill the zookeeper, he tosses a fireball into the thing's face, but it's treated more like a snowball. The gorilla drops the guy, certainly, but the thing seems more annoyed than anything else and tries to escape. After he knocks it out, Betty arrives and tells him about Namor attacking the George Washington Bridge. The fight plays out as we saw before, just condensed to one page. And yeah, this should probably be where we end. That's the first meeting and fight and all. But considering how big a deal this is and that the next issue follows on directly from this, we're going to continue with issue 9. The cover is much better, since of course this is the one really highlighting the fight. A full 22 thrill-packed pages and all. Here we have Namor wrecking another elevated train while the Human Torch swoops down to give him a wedgie. Hell, we even have for the first page just being like a fight poster advertising what we've already got the comic for. The Human Torch versus the Submariner in the Battle of the Comic Century! A bold claim to make considering how many other comic battles we've had in the last century. Although maybe when they said comic century, they mean the sliding timescale changes how long that actually is. Anyway, we pick up right where we left off. Namor fleeing from the Human Torch in the water. Here's a weird bit of lettering. The first panel is, of course, a recap of the last issue, but in the first paragraph, the first letter of Submariner and Human Torch are bolded. Not the entire word, no other letters or words get this treatment, just those. I know bolding and emphasizing and exclamation points were a hallmark of the time for stuff to stand out, but why just those letters and not any others? And why only the first paragraph? Did they figure the kids would only read the first paragraph and then get bored or something? That blazing fool will be tougher than I thought. Something will have to be done. I'm going to say so many slurs against him on social media. He dives down and grabs an air pressure tank from what I presume is a downed submarine and heads back to the Statue of Liberty, figuring that the Torch will look for him there. Unfortunately for the Human Torch, he just runs into the Liberty Lurker instead. The Torch does indeed arrive as Namor gets ready, dodging a fireball before unleashing the compressed air at the Torch. It's powerful enough to blow out his flames, allowing Namor to punch him down into the bay. Now that he has the home field advantage, Namor drags the Torch down into that submarine. Namor prepares to start the thing up, utilizing the pressurized air, but the air hose malfunctions. The Torch regains consciousness as air bubbles spray out of the hose, some growing big enough to engulf the Human Torch. He's inside that air bubble! Bah! I can't hold it! So it turns out the one force that is immune to the power of Namor the Submariner, bubbles. Like, seriously, he can't grab the air bubble as it rises and is unable to pop it, to the point where even punching it just sends it to the surface faster. So Aquaman didn't even need a whale in Marvel vs. DC. You could take out Namor with a dollar store soap bubble blower. Once at the surface, the Torch bursts out of the bubble and regains his flames, flying off to safety. Namor considers his next move while the Torch returns to police headquarters, melting through a window this time. There, Betty is meeting with the police chief. But I tell you, I can talk to Namor. I'm sure he'll listen to me. He's not at all as bad as you think.
You're kind of an idiot, aren't you?
15 minutes later, an officer rushes in to tell them to turn on the TV. This is my final warning. Get off my trail, Torch, or take the consequences.
Quick, change the channel.
The Torch flies out to the TV station and burns through the roof. Okay, I'm starting to think that maybe the Human Torch is just as much of a danger to the city as Namor, but on a smaller scale. That being said, the narration notes that the Torch does deliberately avoid stepping on the floor since it'll apparently set it on fire, but Namor then leaps out of the hole he made in the roof. Namor heads towards a nearby water reservoir and splashes in, avoiding a wave of flame that the Torch sends at him. However, this is exactly where the Torch wants him. With the absolute control of the flames, he keeps the fire burning above and around the reservoir, trapping him there. Inside the water, Namor starts choking since the reservoir contains chlorine. Okay, our list of Namor's weaknesses now includes killer whales, bubbles, and pool cleaners. We're learning a lot from this. The flames keep him from escaping the water, so he passes out inside the reservoir. Not realizing that Namor is dying in there, the Torch calls the police and gets them to bomb the reservoir! While the explosives don't destroy it, the blasts manage to shoot Namor out of them and away from the chlorinated water, where they probably could have ended him there. Still, the Torch moves quickly and continues the attack as Namor recovers. He once again engulfs Namor in a burning ring of fire. Let's see you get out of that! Damn, if only I could fly! Oh, wait. Namor's sprinkler sweat isn't enough to douse the flames, and apparently he can't just fly straight up, instead needing to fly through the flames and burning the weird little wings on his feet that enable his flight. He crashes back down, but one of the police planes swings around to open fire on him. But that just gives Namor the chance to leap onto its landing gear. He climbs into the cockpit and knocks out the pilot. Whoa! Killing this poor fool won't accomplish anything. I'll open his parachute. Sure, I've killed and threatened so many lives today, but I feel like stealing this plane and killing him would just make me a jerk. And hey, check it out! We can see his parachute! Neat. Anyway, with the pilot clear, the Human Torch is free to launch fireballs at Namor. He manages to blast the plane in half, but it's over the river by now, enabling Namor to once again escape. He's pissed, but finally comes up with a plan. There's only one way to lick him. Why didn't I think of it before? Cover him in sugar! He'll be delicious! The Torch meets back up with Betty and the Chief. Why don't you leave him alone? I could persuade him to go away. Shut up! The Chief suggests they use some kind of chemicals to stop Namor. At the police lab, the technicians there recommend sulfuric acid to burn through his skin. Employing chemical warfare. Our hero, everybody! The police don't have enough of the stuff on them, so they recommend he go to the Torpy Chemical Works. The whole time, Betty keeps trying to get the Torch to listen, but everyone's just ignoring her and he flies off, taking out another window in the process. Just open the damn thing, you lazy asshole! At the chemical plant, a worker there is happy to give him the sulfuric acid, but it seems Namor is there already too. The Torch just starts chucking bottles of sulfuric acid around, Namor dodging them until he accidentally hits the nitroglycerin vat. Nice of them to label it, at least. While the Torch works to subdue the explosion he caused, Namor heads to a testing laboratory and grabs a large translite case and brings it down. They don't specifically say what form of translite it is, which is weird because they're going to suggest that it's heat-proof. Except one form of translite material is PETG, a form of plastic that, I'm planning on making the Atop the Fourth Wall action figures out of. And I can assure you, heat affects it! But yeah, Namor flies down and traps the Torch inside the heavy case, burning out his flames and keeping him trapped in it. The Torch tries to punch his way out, but its rubber-like texture absorbs the impact. Okay, but seriously, can they explain what translite material they mean? That also includes translucent polystyrene, acrylic, and Lexan, a form of thermoplastic, none of which has a rubber texture. And again, heat does stuff to them. Namor tries to lift the container up, but there's no bottom to the case and thus air gets in, allowing him to turn into the torch once more. Namor shoves the capsule back down again to snuff out the flames, leading to our cliffhanger. Namor can't move him, and of course someone's gonna let him out eventually. The torch is helpless while confined in the translite tube, and Submariner can't get at him without endangering himself. Submariner can't leave the torch, for someone may come to release him. What'll they do? What would you do? What's your solution? Gotta be honest, we wrote ourselves into a corner on this one and could use some ideas. And thus we reach Marvel Mystery Comics number 10, whose cover does not advertise the conclusion of the story, but it does have Namor sinking Nazis into the ocean, which I think we can all appreciate. Well, I mean, some people don't appreciate it, but those are the ones who sympathize with Nazis, and who the hell cares what they think? But yeah, that conclusion. After a recap paragraph of the dilemma, Betty and the Chief arrive, and Betty, well, listen to reason. There's nothing you can do. Call the whole thing off. I promise you, if you go away and leave us alone, the torch will never bother you again. So the big resolution to this problem is Betty going, you get out of here and go home, Namor. And it works! So yeah, it really was that easy. Betty just needed to say, we'll call it a draw, okay? And that's all it took to end Namor's rampage. Like, Namor shrugs, lets the Human Torch free, and Torch even wraps his arm around him like they were buddies. And so our first big crossover ends with the Torch just saying, well, you were really tough, Namor. Guess we're not even gonna try to punish you for all those people you killed. Well, kids, that's the way it ended. There was really nothing that either the Human Torch or Submariner could do to end it any other way. Actually, my solution would have been for the Torch to hit the case hard enough to knock it over, escape, then use his flames to knock Namor out. They try to put him on trial, but then he escapes to fight another day. Anyway, aside from that lame ending, this story is pretty good. When you advertise a big fight between characters like this, you'd better deliver on it, and this story does just that. The fight gets very imaginative, and there's a back and forth between the two characters, neither seen as superior to the other. Just two cunning adversaries who are kinda deadlocked. Sure, the Torch should eventually win through because he's the hero, but Namor shows he's no slouch and more than a match for him. And while I don't know if the two ever encountered each other again during the Golden Age, it would be later retconned in the 70s that Namor, the Human Torch, Captain America, and Bucky all joined forces in World War II to fight the Nazis as a superhero team known as the Invaders. Which seems like a terrible superhero name, since that implies you're the bad guys, but whatever. But yeah, he'd slow down his kill all humans thing, but Namor would prove to be one of the big recurring presences in the Marvel Universe as an instigator of big moments in Marvel history, while the Human Torch had a weirder history later and his name taken by Johnny Storm of the Fantastic Four. And yet, ironically, that kind of rivalry with the Torch would sort of carry over, since Namor would frequently have quarrels with the Fantastic Four, save for him having a thing for Sue Storm. But yeah, this showed the true start of the Marvel Universe by having these two characters crossover. A superhero versus match that would of course be a staple of the industry later, but more importantly show that these two very different characters could coexist and still be doing their own things while being part of a larger world. And that's it for Secret Origins Month. I'm pretty sure we'll have it again this year in its proper spot in November, barring any other major schedule slippages and cancellations. But next time, it's off to Patreon-sponsored reviews with part of a French comic called Percivan.
That comic books
You need cooling off, Torchy!
Let off some steam, Bennett.
Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching!